Good morning, CLC. Thank you for your love, your presence. Thank you for being the shining light that you are. In this moment and at this time, I invite you to shine that light into every single corner of the world. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in the love and light that surrounds you. And as you release the breath, let go of all that no longer serves you. Allow your body to relax. Pull in any thoughts of past or future experiences. Take another nice deep cleansing breath in. And as you release the breath, allow your mind to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own. For your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I am grateful for the good in your lives.
Well, I welcome you here today for the last in a series for this go-round on spiritual healing. And we have established certain things through the course of the month. The first of these being, well, in no particular order, the first one that comes to mind for me being that healing is a perpetual thing. It doesn't just start when we call on it. Overnight, you're regenerating. Between activities, your body is refreshing itself. Situations are remedying. Have you worried about stuff just to find out that it's all being taken care of? Situations are knitting themselves back together. The people's feelings you thought you hurt didn't even hear what you said. Everything is better than we often think it is. And one of the great awarenesses you have about that, too, is that if you're concerned deeply with what other people think of you, they're probably not thinking of you. They're thinking of what other people think of them. If they're thinking of anything like that at all, they're thinking of where they're going for lunch and, all of the things they have to do. They're not as lasered in on how each of us is, but we feel very exposed in life. We get this when we're socialized as children in a peer setting in schools and such. We get this idea that we have to maintain a certain place in the peer ranking system, and we carry that into later years. You can carry that into old age and still feel like you don't match up. But when you let all this stuff go, you find out that things are better than you thought they were. And there's a process at work through the self. And I've been using a book called Spiritual Healing by Dr. Stuart Grayson, who was a friend of mine and a mentor of mine. And he wrote this book, published it in 1997. And among the other things in there, he says that there are 3 tiers, levels of mind: absolute, conscious, and subconscious. We split hairs on this. Unity teaches the existence of something called the superconscious, which exists between the absolute and the conscious. Nobody knows, but it's right. But it's nice to have some kind of a framework to work with. And the thing that I want to impress upon you today is that the absolute is absolutely just that. The conscious mind is what you think it is. it's literally, it's what you think it is. It's what you're sitting there thinking about right now, processing consciously, processing cognitively. The subconscious mind, which is very misunderstood and wildly unexplored, really. I mean, we read Jung and we read these others, you know, who've done work with archetypal structures and stuff, but really it's still a undiscovered country, the subconscious, is the place of the operation of spiritual law, so that what the conscious mind selects, the subconscious mind goes and gets. Doesn't always do it as crisply and perfectly as we think it ought to, because there are other influences at work, which I'll get to in a minute, but that's what's happening in the interaction between conscious and subconscious. Meanwhile, encompassing all of this is what we call the absolute, the great I am, that which is. And here's the thing, being the absolute, it doesn't change. It doesn't evolve. It has nothing to evolve into, because it is infinite, because it is timeless. What does evolve is the use we make of it. And I'm in a history course on Monday nights, and we're talking about this, where the claim that is placed on the absolute has changed a lot over the millennia. Our distant ancestors had a different wish list than we do. Yes, it still had on there love and kindness and the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all that, but the specific choices that were made into law were different in a different time, different in different cultures, so on. Now we're refining things further, and it seems like they're speeding up by the minute. And I was reading an obituary the other day of a guy who was a librarian at a university, just passed, and the big contribution that he made to library science at this university was he got them off card catalogs and into digitization. You know, all of that. And no sooner, I promise you, you're not going to put this in obituary because it's kind of rude, but I promise you that the minute the guy was done, it was obsolete, whatever system he'd come up with. There was something that was newer, faster, a new tech, and so on. So it's all whipping along really quickly in our lifetimes, and who knows what's to come. So we're making a claim on the absolute for the purpose of converting conscious thought into subconscious patterns, into ways of being in the world, how life works better. We're not doing this seamlessly. There are a lot of issues with it around the collective consciousness that we have in the world now that we know what everybody's thinking. Some of it is kind of appalling to us. And so in the field of social media, let's say, now that you can read everybody's mind, you didn't used to know what the person sitting next to you thought about things. And now you know in great detail, and it may not work with your own belief system. So we've got to work that out, right? When everything is just... But you go back into the old scriptures, and they talk about the earth being made of glass, and they talk about everything. Nothing, what is it? Nothing is hidden that will not be revealed. Nothing is hidden that will not be revealed. The wheel grinds exceedingly fine. So it means we're getting all our inventory out there so that we can have a look at it. Well, what we're talking about today is deliberately, consciously guiding causes into effects. Let's review a little bit of basic metaphysics about that. Everything is a cause of something else, and everything is an effect of something else. Everything is an effect of a preceding cause. Everything is a cause of a subsequent effect. You with me so far? So to nail something down and say, that right there, that's a cause, and that's only a cause, and that will always be a cause, limits its capacity to express as an effect. When we say, I think light is a particle, and we create an experimental protocol to isolate the particle-like nature of light, we are necessarily excluding the possibility that light could be a wave. In quantum mechanics, what they have discovered and as soon as I say this, it's obsolete, is that light shows up in conformity to the expectation set by the form of the experimentation to determine its nature. In other words, stuff goes along to get along with the chute that you've put it in, the silo you've consigned it to. What if it could be both at once? What if it could be more than that? What if you and I could be more than that? Well, we are. And see, we deal with this paradox every minute that we are spiritual beings. We are absolutely spiritual beings, and we are at the same time absolutely having a human experience. We are spiritual beings and we're having a material experience. We're immortal beings who are wearing mortal forms. How are we to manage this? Only one way I know of, and that's to turn to the absolute that recognizes no distinction between one and the other. Can we stay there in that form of consciousness? No. We've got to get back to paying the bills, and we've got to get back to making dinner, and we've got to get back to walking the dog. But we can go there periodically to refill ourselves of purpose and power and conviction that we are the experience that the absolute is having. You hear me say this like every Sunday. It could be a motto for this place, but this week I heard an even better one, which I'll share with you in a moment. It could be a motto for what we teach here, okay? But what you hear me say all the time, we are the experience that the absolute is having in this world at this time by means of us. And you can get all puffed up with that, you know? I'm the experience that, hey, did you know I'm the experience the absolute is having by... Well, so is the person you're talking to. So is the person who doesn't have a clue that this is true. So does the tree outside. So does the cloud in the sky, and so on. Every bit of creation is the experience that the absolute is having in this world at this time by means of them, that, it, they, so forth. All right? So, this suggests, as Grayson points out, the existence of a principle running through all of this that's accessible at every point. What claim would you place on the absolute today for your personal benefit? Let's do it this way. For your personal benefit, the benefit of a loved one, and the benefit of society. 3 different levels of understanding, I guess you'd say. What is the claim that you would place on the absolute today? Let's start with the self. So we don't always know what, you know, the loved ones, that can get problematic because you pick something out for the loved ones, don't you? You pick out a reality for them. Oh, please make Uncle Jimmy stop drinking or something like that. Well, they don't want to. You know, please, I wish my kid would finish college, or I wish, you know, to move people around out there, but people are at choice. So you got to be a little careful about this sort of thing, you know. But if you look at yourself, say, well, what is it I choose to create for myself today? One question you can ask yourself is, where does it hurt? Where does it hurt? What am I lacking? How would I have it be? If it doesn't hurt any place, good for you. Then what is your dream? How would you expand what's going on in your life in some way? I heard somebody say one time, more than once actually, but it really caught my attention the first time, where they said when in requesting prayer for their life, they said, here's what I want. I want an expansion of what's so. Now that's beautiful. To be able to say that, bravo, brava. Isn't that great? They're really liking their life and they want it expanded, and that's fantastic. So maybe that's you, or maybe you hurt, or maybe you're not sure. Maybe you don't know from time to time what it is exactly you want. And as one of our practitioners said years ago beautifully, if you don't know what you want, how would you feel if you did know what you want? Because it's the feeling that we work on. See, if I get you excited about something, and this is in a group setting, this is always interesting, is a chocolate ice cream. hey, let's have some chocolate ice cream. And half the room lights up. The other half says, I'm lactose intolerant, or can't we have strawberry, or what about frozen yogurt, or I don't, anyway, you never get a consensus around this sort of thing, But you whip up the idea around a certain thing, and if chocolate ice cream is just the thing for you, all of a sudden you're operating on a different wavelength. Your brain is kicked into a different kind of gear. All of a sudden there's a feeling of joyous expectancy that's come over you for something as simple as that. We got into a conversation in one of the classes the other night. There used to be a question in some of the curriculum, what would you do if you had $1 million? And you know what everybody in the class said? That's not enough. Used to be when they wrote the thing, it was like, whoa. And now it's like, oh, hey, I've got more than that in my 401k or something. It's what is it that floats your boat? What is it you want to create in your life? What is it that excites you? Whatever it is that excites you is what you're already in the process of creating for yourself. And if it doesn't excite you, find something that does. Or re-examine this thing that doesn't excite you. You can reanimate old joys, old passions, old plans, dreams, reinvigorate them in some way to where they do stimulate feeling. And why stimulate feeling? It's what moves the subconscious mind. There's a whole diagram for this. I've put together a whole video, thanks to David LeMaster, an hour-long explanation of how all of this stuff works in intricate, mind-numbing detail. Mind-numbing, I tell you. If you want to watch this thing, it's on YouTube. But what it all boils down to, since we want it all to boil down to something, is that thought wrapped in feeling equals belief, and it's done to us as we believe. So we've got to get excited about the idea, wrap the thing in feeling, and deposit it into subconscious mind. Release it into subconscious mind, and then see what happens. And it will pick up some energy, and it will begin to manifest itself. Now, a word of explanation, not even caution. Best example I can give you here is when I was a little kid, my uncle was the only one in the family with a car, because we lived in an area where you didn't need a car. But he liked cars, so he had a car. And so my first experience being driven around any place was by him. And I'd sit there as a little kid. This is so long ago, their seat belts hadn't been invented yet. And anyway, I'd sit there in his big old Chrysler New Yorker. And I'd watch as he drove, and he's playing the wheel, right, like this. And I'm sitting there, and the road looks perfectly straight to me, but he's playing the wheel. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, you got to adjust to the road. He said, I know it looks straight, but it isn't. And eventually he put me behind the wheel and kind of showed me, and, well, you know what I'm talking about. You drive here, the wheel is constantly in motion, even on a straightaway, even in West Texas. The wheel is constantly adjusting itself. You get on a plane, they're doing the same thing. You get on a boat, they're doing the same thing. You get in consciousness, you're doing the same thing. We are constantly making minor adjustments, minor tweaks to the direction that we're going. The trick is to make those adjustments conscious rather than oblivious. I suppose there's a fourth tier of mind besides the absolute and the conscious and the subconscious, and that's the perfectly oblivious, where we don't know and we don't know that we don't know. We're using a power before we knew there was such a power, and we're just depositing. It's like a trash compactor to us. We're just flinging banana peels and whatnot into it, and that's what it's generating more of. We're constantly tweaking the process. We're constantly adjusting with every thought, which is why you hear of book titles in this science like You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought by McWilliams, I think it was. Came out some years ago. Great little book. You cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought. Sounds punitive, sounds strict, sounds kind of overbearing, but the point of the thing is that everything affects something. Everything is a cause of some effect. Everything adjusts the process upward or downward in some way. Every time I think I can throw off a judgment about somebody, every time I think I can have some kind of hostility and get away with it, wow. You may not know. Other people may not know our hostilities, our grudges, our resentments. We may be really good at concealing these things. We may have a smile plastered on and a song in our heart and a spring in our step and all the rest of this, and have a heart full of resentment and grudges and anger and whatnot. Guess what notices that? The subconscious mind. It can't help but notice it. That's what it's there for. And it will take that, and will it absolutely torpedo everything in your life? No, but it will adjust it downward. It will depress it somewhat. And every time you have an elevated thought, every time you have a thought of forgiveness and joy, and especially, I think, positive expectancy / gratitude, all right? You have that kind of a way of thinking, it adjusts everything upwards. So this is the work that we have to do. We place a claim on the absolute. There's a passage in the Gospel of Matthew where it says something about if your son asks you for bread, would you give him a stone? And it's speaking in parables, as was done, about the process of prayer. If you ask God for bread, will God give you a stone? No, but I also don't think God will give you bread. I think God will give you ingredients for bread. That's my personal take on it. You ask for bread, God gives you flour, butter, eggs, a pan, an oven, so on. Because we're part of the process of the creation of things. But for the bread-like response to be delivered, there has to be a mental equivalent on my side of the process that's introduced into the subconscious mind. How would I feel if I had this loaf of bread? How would I feel if I had this greater good in my life? And then that's the claim that I'm placing on the process, and the process gets to respond. The process responds by means of the subconscious. The subconscious has no opinion. The subconscious doesn't say, whoa, this is different. It's kind of like, in my thinking, it's sort of like a short order cook in the old days where they'd scribble out an order and hang it up. You see all the little slips of white paper hanging up over the stove, and they're making the eggs, and they're doing this and all like that, and whatever it is on the menu. It's not like Belushi's Diner with a cheeseburger and chips and Pepsi, and that's all you get. But it says here I can have the roast turkey sandwich. No, cheeseburger. That's all you get. No, this process, whatever you order from it, I don't think it even reacts. I don't think it even looks at it and says, wow, that's really different. We've never heard that from this person before, that you've come up with this. Because it lacks the capacity for critical evaluation. Why? Why does it lack the capacity for critical evaluation? Because that's a conscious gig that happens through comparison. But if you're working with a system that is at that level, infinite and absolute, it can't step outside itself to evaluate the intricacies of its own creativity. The good news, I know that sounds like kind of random philosophy, but the good news for us in all of this is that if you go to this thing for the remedy of a problem, it's not going to say, wow, that's a big problem. I saw a TV ad the other night for an AI service of some kind, AI company making AI, and talking about solving problems. And their cut line was, it's not a good time to be a problem. That's pretty funny. It's not a good, if you're a problem and you want to be a problem, it's not a good time because we're creating mechanisms whereby these problems go away. How does the problem go away? It gets solved. It's addressed at the level of cause. It's treated as an effect. It's rearranged in some way to go and be a new and different cause. Now the wheel is adjusted somehow, and the vehicle heads itself in some new direction. So we pass off to this subconscious mind, which does not know the difference. It knows, as Ernest Holmes put it, it knows form but not size, experience but not duration. Sit with that a moment, would you please? Because it has terrific implications for you. I invite you to memorize that. It has form but not size, experience but not duration. It knows that something is, but not what it is, how long it's been there. It doesn't know duration. It knows experience, and experience and experience. All it knows is now. All it knows is now. And I know you've heard that. There are books and stuff and workshops and the whole cottage industry about now. It's now. It's always now. Now it's a new now. Now it's a new now. And that's how the subconscious mind operates. And so if you go to the thing in your spiritual work and you say, well, I hope to someday have, remember, it doesn't get the wheels turning. But if you say to this, that right now, I am the person I have always dreamt of being, the only person who's going to object to that is you at the conscious level, saying, wait, that sounds silly. What if someone were to hear me say this? It sounds unrealistic. It sounds like magical thinking in some way. No, it sounds really to me like you're directing the subconscious mind along specific lines in a particular way. By describing a now that has not yet occurred, but you're speaking it into form for the next now to pick it up and run with it. You see? The next now. Now, when will the next now occur? Everybody wants to know this. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Will it be this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, by the end of the year? Nobody knows. So we have a phrase for that. We say, at the perfect right time. At the perfect right time, for the greatest good for all concerned. At the perfect right time, for the greatest good for all concerned, because this is not just about our private local good. It involves absolutely everybody else that we transact with, everybody else on the planet, everybody else who's ever been on the planet, and so on. At the perfect right time, all the pieces will come together to create this. What do I have to do to get ready for that? Well, first thing I have to do is release this thing that we call a spiritual mind treatment, this declaration into spiritual law. Release it, let it go. Go away, do something different, take a walk, watch a movie, whatever. Get your mind off the situation. The other thing is, at the same time, pack for the journey. Pack for the journey. There's a story that's told, I don't know if it's true, but it's a good story about there was a drought in the town, and so the local church had a prayer vigil for rain, and one little girl showed up with an umbrella. Think about that. Pack for the journey. What would you need to be ready for the experience of life that you're choosing to have? Start acting like it. Start thinking like it. Start talking like it. Start crossing a room like it. Just for yourself. Just for yourself. Look at that piano over there. What if you could play the piano? Imagine that you can play the piano. Imagine that you can play the piano beautifully, so that when you walk in a room and you see a piano, you say, yep, there's me and that piano. And I could make beautiful music on that. I'm not going to do that right this moment, say to yourself, but I could. And you know what will happen? You'll start, without even having sat down at the thing, without having lesson one, you'll start to become a pianist. I don't know how it happens, but it does. Musical theory will start to make sense to you. The mathematics of the thing. Your physical dexterity, your hands and fingers and so on, will somehow improve, and you'll be prepared for it. And if that seems like too much of an effort, then the piano's not your thing. And that's okay too. Then you find something else. So what is it you would like to be in this life? That's a healing right there. And when you are healed into that, into being expressively the fullness of who you are, you benefit the entire organism, which is why you have that wind at your back. The absolute wants this for you. I see these guys on TV, they get it, God wants you to be rich. No, God, no, no, I'm sorry. God really doesn't care. God really doesn't care. Not the God I believe in anyway, okay? But what God / the absolute / the universe wants you to be is fully alive. You, okay? And when the impediments to that are removed, you're good to go. So the slogan that I promised you that I saw in a meme, it was referring to great teachers, and I think it refers also to great teachings like this science of mine. It says, a great teacher will show you where to look, but not tell you what to see. I read that and I had to sit down. Actually, I was already sitting. But isn't that great? Show you where to look. That's what the universe does. Just come here, stand by me on this mountaintop. Look at the view. Look at the vista, you know. Now take it in your own terms. Decide how you feel about it. Decide what you want to do with it. And watch what happens next. So I'd like to close this series with a tip of the hat to our friend Stuart. You can get this book. It's out of print, sadly, but it's available from used book dealers. We had one in the bookstore, and one of you snatched it up and made off with it. Oh, and I think I told you, didn't I, that the used copy that I bought off of Thrift Books, just so we'd have one here, didn't make any money on it, if you're wondering. Okay, not gonna hold you up. But when it came in, I riffled through it, and there was a receipt for the book itself, handwritten, and a receipt for a class based on the book, handwritten, from 1997, 98, the year after it came out, from a person I have been trying ever since to locate, who was a minister in 1998, and I have not succeeded in finding this person yet. So isn't that cool? And then Lisa had a similar experience with her used copy. So when people are hanging on to this. Okay, so I'm closing this with a sort of a meditation, kind of a treatment called I Am Grateful. He's got a bunch of these at the back of the book. I just picked this one for you because it spoke to me. There is a grand cosmic design to the universe. It expresses as an evolutionary principle manifesting in the harmonic progression of life. The principle lives in me and projects as my personal growth and spiritual development. I am inspired by this indwelling power and principle of joyous being. I affirm its nature with praise and thanksgiving. In my life, it appears as a movement of unlimited bounty and supply. I know that I am continually supported by this creative action, and my experience is ordered and harmonious. In the acceptance of this givingness of the divine nature, I find myself inwardly transformed and outwardly manifesting a life of ease, wholeness, and abundant good. I am happy and at peace with my world. And so it is.
I was just thinking about the short order cook. You know, if they get too many orders, would that produce a pandemic? It will eventually get through to everybody. So, but I am supposed to do announcements. I want to highlight a couple of things. This coming Saturday, there's a writers group that meets online at 11 o'clock. It's run by a practitioner, John Herron, so look for that. But also, Reverend Dana Vaught, one of our ministers, is starting a class this coming Tuesday. It's called Thursday, sorry. This coming Thursday. The front bench will always correct me if I'm wrong. This coming Thursday, it's Self-Mastery, the Emergence of the True Self. You can actually register for that on our Creative Life Spiritual Centers. Let me see. It's on our webpage right now, yeah? I just checked. It is on there. So you can register there. And if you are a practitioner, you get a big discount. And it didn't say if you're a minister. Maybe ministers have to pay the poor price. I don't know. But there are, and if you've taken, yeah, and if you've taken it before, that's our out, Lisa. We've taken it before. So, yeah. If you've taken it before, you get a big discount as well. But it is a really, really great course. And if you've never taken it, I can really highly, highly recommend it. And also I can highly recommend Dana, because she's put a lot of effort into this, and she really deserves to have a big following here. So please consider that. It's on Zoom. It's on Zoom.
You do it in the comfort of your own home.
From the comforts of your own home. And then you can say, Zoom, we've done that. Or we will have done that, right? Of course, everything else has gone out of my head, but, you know, every single day of the week we got something going on for you. There's a spiritual uplifting reading twice a day. There's a meditation in the midweek. There's also book studies on Mondays and Wednesdays. There's Philosophy Friday. As I said, there's the Righteous group. There's a men's group on Sunday. There's really something every single day of the week for you. If you are new here, could you please raise your hand? And our usher, first of all, welcome. And then after the service, please hang around and in the room at the back there. We'll be happy to answer your questions about what we do here. So as we come up to giving time, you know, I am truly grateful for this center. This center changed my life. It changed the way I look at life. And because of that, I am really incredibly, incredibly grateful for it. So, and if you also are grateful for the teachings that you get here, please, please, not just keep coming here, whether it's online or in person, please pass the word on to other people, because we truly, truly, truly want to make this world a much better place. And we can do it, and we will do it. So please say with me now, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
I'm going off script here for a moment. It's Reverend Lisa's time to come up and do the closing, but I have something I want to say based on something I just saw. You know, yesterday, we live in a city with all these different spiritual centers, and Reverend David's saying how grateful he is for this one, and God, so am I, and so are you, and it's wonderful to be here. But everybody's grateful for their spiritual home, whatever that spiritual home is. And one of the groups of people that Reverend David has worked with in the interfaith event that they hold every Thanksgiving and meetings throughout the year, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, yesterday lost their leader at the age of 101, who just passed away, and they're grieving that. And this morning there was an attack on a Mormon temple in Michigan. Would you please just close your eyes for a moment and join me in knowing there is one life, one power, one presence working through each and every one of us, each in our separate star, each in our own explanation of how the universe works, with our own rituals, our own literature, our own legacy. Back of it all is this one Spirit that just smiles on all of us, that says to us in its own way, "Come unto me, you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." We live in the question. So I affirm and know now that there is a sense of courage and peacefulness and resolve and a binding up of wounds and doing whatever needs to be done in the experience that has unfolded. And I claim that there is a cessation of hostility in every human heart. If somebody needs help, they get it. There is something beyond anything that we have touched. And I call on that now to do what needs doing. And I gather up the love of this community, each one of us in this room, watching online, and we package it up. We wrap it with care. We seal it with a kiss. And we send it to Michigan. We send it to all who suffer anywhere. For this knowing, the way that it unfolds in form, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now, calling it done, and so it is.
Now, I'm going to encourage you to take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe that breath in, center yourself here. As you release the breath, relax. One more nice deep breath. And as you are breathing in, remember who you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. When you open your eyes and look into the eyes of any other being, that is the divine looking back at you. And if we can do that, the world will shift. So know with me, go with me, right this moment, into that conscious sacred. It is all sacred all the time. But when we enter it consciously, with purpose, that is when we do our best work. And that is when the healing happens. There is one life. Each of us live that life. There is one power. Each of us are channels for that power. There is one presence. Each of us are a manifestation of that presence. And there is one love. And each of us are that love in motion. So in this coming week, my knowing is that each of us, in every moment, with every breath we take, we remember that we are love. That we speak with love, that we reach out hands with love, that we do everything with love. And that it ripples out from us into the wider world so that it ripples back. That each person that we touch, each person that we converse with, each person that we make eye contact with feels that love. And that the spark of that love inside them grows brighter. And I know this because it is the deep truth written before the sun that will last long after the sun is gone. Love is all there is. And I am grateful for a teaching that reminds me who I am. I am grateful for the community that comes together to remind each other of that fact. I am grateful for our ministers, our practitioners, our musicians. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to spread this love far and wide. And I am grateful because it's just another word for love. And I relax into this knowing, releasing my word into the law that always says yes with love, knowing that it is done, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. And so it is.